be ballin'. What's up? It's Ashley. I be ballin' with my main man Kyle. Big news in Bucks land, Bucks world. They fired Adrian Griffin. Oh, in the middle of a season. Oh, second in the East, 30 and 13. I thought maybe we would have fired him, after the season. Gave him a chance to see how he performs in the playoffs, but they didn't do it. It was definitely a roller coaster ride, hearing some rumblings that Giannis and other veterans lost faith in Griffin, you know, Dame talking about the defense. And remember that, post game about Giannis saying everybody needs to be better, even the equipment manager. That was another sign. So many signs. What is your first initial thoughts about this? Why did the Bucks do this? Were you shocked?
Yeah, just beyond shocked, Ashley. This was a crazy day in Bucksland, no doubt. I it was like a Twilight Zone out of body like experience almost for me, like seeing the news. It was like I didn't like I thought it was like I was hallucinating or it was some kind of dream or like it was just I had to ask like what year it was. Like I didn't know like I didn't know what was going on. I had deja vu flashbacks to when we fired Jason Kidd in the middle of the season, and I believe it was nearly identical to the day actually that we ended up making this mid-season change once again. And coincidentally, back then it was also Joe Prunty who took over as our interim head coach, and here we are 6 years later, and we fire another coach in the middle of the season, and and once again Prunty is there as the interim for now as our coach. So we'll get into more of that, of course, later. Like if we think or suspect someone else is coming in here to coach for the rest of the season, or will Prunty get another shot here, and for how long maybe, or who knows? But it truly is shocking. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I don't say
And
it's hard to believe. It always just felt strange, like from day one when we decided to hire a rookie coach. I mean, a first year head coach. I said right away, and this was before we made the Dame trade, of course. And I said, "Ooh, a first year coach. That's probably not going to end well." Like that was my initial reaction. It was just I felt like this is not going to work. Like I and back when before the season started and we brought Terry Stotts in and we had him as our lead assistant, and I said, okay, like I feel a lot better now. Like I feel better about having a first year coach. We have a veteran, experienced former head coach leading the team on the sidelines, right alongside Griffin as somebody he could lean on for advice and for support throughout the season. And of course, there was a connection with Terry Stotts and Dame from all their years together in Portland. And I said, okay, like this is going to be good. Like this is going to be really good for the Bucks. You have Terry Stotts as this kind of guiding light, the guiding veteran coach for Griffin to lean on. And he's someone who knows Lillard better than anyone on our team and better than any other coach for us. And then it was like red flag number one, like went up high into the air right away as like basically a week before the season begins. Terry Stotts is out and he says, "Hey, I'm gone. Hey, I'm out of here." And I go, "Whoa, like, wait, what?" Like, and I like that was the first red flag like moment where you're just kind of like in disbelief, or that started to make people think like, okay, something like doesn't seem good here. Something doesn't seem right. Something seems off because this is a guy who you should be collaborating with and like leaning on, and he all of a sudden decides that he wants nothing to do with being on your staff. And like that's pretty bad, man. Like the Bucks, You have Giannis on your roster. You have Damian Lillard. You have Chris Middleton. You have Brook Lopez. You have 2 top 75 players of all time, 2 on your team, 2 future Hall of Famers, and you don't want to be around for that ride for the season. To me, that told me something definitely was wrong or like not right. And like I know like it kind of was like, oh, when the news broke, like it sort of was like, oh, let's keep this on the down low, or the Bucks were real quiet about it kind of thing. And they didn't want like unnecessary drama to put a dark cloud on the team going into the season or anything. So they were just kind of like quiet about it. But fans all around were thinking, like there's probably something to that. Like why is this happening? Why is he deciding to leave right before the season? And like, and then it came out shortly after that it was like, oh, Terry Stotts like is still interested in coaching. He just doesn't want to coach for the Bucks. And that's like, okay, well now that like really confirms like your fears, and that makes it look really bad, because it would be one thing if it was like, oh, he wants to spend time with family, or now he just wants to retire, or he just decided like coaching wasn't for him anymore or something, or maybe a personal matter came up or something. Then I would have like understood him leaving right before the season started or something, like, oh, okay, like something came up, or there was another reason. But it really just appeared from all reports and all indications that came out. All those reports said basically that no, he's still interested in coaching. He just wanted nothing to do with being in Milwaukee. And like, to even make it even stranger is Terry Stotts is a local guy. I'm pretty sure he's from Wisconsin. So that makes it like even weirder. Honestly, it's like, why would a local coach, also I'll add, a former head coach of the Bucks from 2005 to 2007, I believe, why on earth would he not want to stay or be on the staff? And I'm like, things must not be good for that to be the case. And it definitely appears, I mean, I said this in the moment, like I said this after that incident with Stotts leaving happened, is I said, okay, to me now this looks bad, and this looks like somebody who wanted to remove the threat to his job, like out of the room and out of the environment, because I believe that Adrian Griffin surmised or realized that if the Bucks get off to a slow start with him being a rookie head coach, the most logical replacement to him is already on the coaching staff as his lead assistant coach. And what better guy to promote to being a head coach than somebody who has complete familiarity with Dame from their time together in Portland, somebody who has been an experienced head coach for several years, for quite a long time in Portland, and also formerly with the Bucks, like I said. So somebody who has that much experience. So Adrian Griffin looked at it and said, okay, this guy is like the biggest threat to my job right here in the room. And to Griffin, it was like, I believe that it was like kind of a power thing, or like an egotistical thing, sort of like, oh, I worked hard to like become a head coach. You're not going to screw this up for me. You're not going to mess this up. You're not going to get in my way. So out you go. And he pushed Stotts out of there. That's what I believe happened, is that he was like, no, this is my time. This is Adrian Griffin time. Like I've worked damn hard for this. Like, and I kind of get that. Like, to be somewhat fair, like I kind of understand that. Like he really was, like he was a long time assistant coach that did put in his time, that did put in his dues. I'm not here to make it sound like I understand both sides of the perspective. I do understand from Griffin's side that it's like, okay, if you just got this job, you wouldn't really want that either, kind of. So it's like, and in some fairness to Griffin also, Griffin did not choose Terry Stotts to be on his roster. The Milwaukee Bucks chose Terry Stotts and essentially forced him upon Griffin and said, here, work with this guy. And it's like almost like this arranged marriage kind of thing. Like, oh, you have to work with this guy under any circumstances. But like Griffin probably wanted his own group of guys, and somebody who maybe wouldn't challenge him as much. I think he saw Terry Stotts as a challenger. Oh, he's going to challenge my ideas. Or maybe like he went up to Griffin and in training camp and said, what are you doing, man? Like, you've got Brooke Lopez like covering the perimeter. Like, have you lost your dang mind? Like, get this guy like by the basket. Get this guy by the rim. You know, this guy is like one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. He's 7'1" and weighs like 280 something pounds. Like, get his behind like by the basket. Like, he shouldn't be covering guards on the perimeter. And like, that's not a good idea. And you already had like our own players, like a week into the season, they were going to Griffin. They were saying, look, bro, like, what are you doing? What are you doing with Brooke? What are you doing with our center? Why is he all the way out here? He should be by the, underneath the circle by the basket. Like, and I mean, Griffin was like, oh yeah, like I listened to my players and I adapted and we moved Brooke back to drop. And I'm just like, you had to be told that? Like, you shouldn't have to be told that. I mean, that's like me that's like you, Ashley, like going to the store and just walking in and grabbing a carton of milk and walking out back to your car and not paying for it. And then, the manager runs out and says, hey, why don't you have to pay for that. And you say, oh, like, sorry. Yeah. Like, I need to change that. I shouldn't do that anymore. It's like, that's just, it's a common sense thing. Like, get your center by the basket, like, more often. Like, stop having him switch on guards and, be taken off the dribble. And one other thing I'll say about Griffin that I maybe didn't like sometimes is like, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but there were a few games like where we would be close in the fourth quarter or like to start the fourth quarter, and Griffin would have both Giannis and Damian Lillard both on the bench for like 5 minutes or something. Like, that's a bad idea. Bad. Like, and like our bench hasn't really been good at all for most of this year. So it's like, that's what you want to do? Like, have you lost your mind or something? Like, overall, like the minutes distribution was very good. I will say in my opinion, that was a positive. That was a strength of Griffin, was that he was willing to play Giannis big minutes and he was willing to play stars bigger minutes. And I liked that about him. I also liked that he was pretty serious about like, not resting players like overly much. Like, we didn't load manage really at all for like this whole first half of the season. And I get it. Maybe like that was just kind of like the newness of the team. Like, you're not going to load manage when you're new. Damian Lillard and Giannis, like, this is all new and we're trying to form like these new connections and we're trying to build something new during the regular season. So, I mean, maybe that just played a role in it. Maybe Giannis is just feeling healthier this season because of his off-season knee surgery last year. Maybe that's playing a factor. I know a couple games he's mentioned like, oh, like I was a couch potato the whole summer, so I want to play like as much as possible kind of thing. But that is something I did like about Griffin, is that he didn't load manage guys. He was willing to put all the chips in to go as hard as he could in each game to win, like playing stars big minutes. I like that. I like that in a coach. We're going to need that. We're going to need that in our next coach, in my opinion. Like, Giannis has to get used to big minutes, and I'm okay with it like happening in the regular season, because in my opinion, when the playoffs come and you're asking Giannis to, he's going to have to be out there for 40 minutes to match star power for star power, like similar to the 2021 series versus the Nets. Like, if you remember, Kevin Durant, like as an older player, was playing 46, 47, 45 minutes a game. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but it was crazy. Like, I think one of the games of the series, he played the whole damn game. I think it was he played the whole damn game. Kevin Durant played 48 minutes. And I'm like, okay, like if we're going to need Giannis to give us 40 minutes or more. And it's like, if you're playing him 31, 32 minutes in the regular season, now you're asking for an 8-minute increase in the playoffs. And that makes a big difference. That's a lot. Like, 8 minutes in the NBA is a long time. Like, if you think about it, that's almost a whole quarter. 8 minutes is almost another quarter. So it's like, Giannis has to get used to that. Really just in general, like if your starting group is strong, like the Bucks starting group is, like I'm okay playing those guys as many minutes as possible. I'm a little like old school maybe with that. Like other fans are like, oh no, like I like Bud's style better, or I liked like load managing players. I liked like playing player or limiting our players' minutes and stuff. And it's like, okay, I get that like in certain scenarios, like when Chris was coming back early in the season and his knee wasn't ready fully yet, then I understand it. Like, yes, okay, like bring him along slowly, like that's okay. Or for certain situations it's fine, or certain stretches I understand, like when there's 4 games in 5 nights and whatnot, like okay, like then like yeah, there are certain cases where yeah, it makes sense. I agree with it. I'm not totally against it all the time, but in my opinion, Bud was too extreme the other way. Like he was too extreme with like load managing. There's like a happy medium. There's a happy middle where like you don't have to load manage guys like overly, but maybe you don't want to like, do like what Tom Thibodeau does and play them like 46 minutes a game or something. I'm sorry, my phone fell.
Oh, no problem.
But yeah, so really I just wanted to say that I did like some things about Griffin. So in fairness to him, like it was just an unfair like fit for the job really. And like I don't like it's very possible to me that he could end up being a decent coach or having a decent coaching solid career on a different team in a different situation with a different fit where there aren't like championship win now expectations. Like he would be a good coach for like a team like the Detroit Pistons or the Charlotte Hornets or the Orlando Magic, even though I know they're doing a lot better, but I just say them because they have younger players too. Like he's a coach where you need a younger core of players so that the coach and the players can grow together and they can both take like time. But when you put a coach that needs to grow or needs to learn with a win now like veteran team, it just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. The two are on different timelines. The Bucks can't afford to wait for Adrian Griffin to learn how to be an elite coach. We need elite coaching right here, right now. Like, and that's just really what it is. And I just wanted to say some good things to Griffin and, be fair to him in some aspects. And I do feel bad for the guy, honestly. Like, I don't know if you feel bad for him, but I mean, it wasn't really like super fair ever that he was put in like a good position. It was just kind of weird. Like the whole thing was strange. And I just kind of feel bad for him, feel bad for the dude a little bit, but I always called him Bobby Portis's like crazy uncle because he kind of looks like like an uncle of Bobby Portis with like his overall look and his eyes and his like demeanor is just kind of funny. But I appreciated that he was willing to get technical fouls in games, and there were a few times that he actually stood up for Giannis. So God bless you, Adrian Griffin. Thank you for that. Like, I don't know about you, but as a Bucks fan, like I have been waiting forever for coaches to stick up for Giannis and be more vocal and, get on the refs a little bit more. So I did like that about Griffin. Like now some of it was maybe like a little forced sometimes where like he had that one game where Giannis was ejected against the Pistons and then, post game, I don't know if you remember, but then Griffin said like, oh, I need to stick up for Giannis more. He said that post game after Giannis was ejected against the Pistons with that like bogus like staring ejection or Giannis like blinked. It was like, oh my God, he blinked at somebody, eject him. But but then right away the very next game against the Pacers, what happens? Boom, like Adrian Griffin gets ejected, standing up for Giannis. So it was like maybe that was like a little forced, but I'm still glad that he did it ultimately. Like, I mean, Bud was our coach for 5 seasons, and he was maybe ejected in one game in like 5 years. Like it like never happened. It like never happened. So I did like that about him. By far the biggest issue was just the weird stuff with defense. Like the weird stuff with defense I never understood. And like I know when Griffin came in, he was like regarded as like this defensive orientated coach, but it's like we never saw any of that. Like we just saw really weird stuff. Like Giannis on the perimeter too much, Brook on the perimeter too much. Just overall bad defensive lineups, like having Portis, Pat, and Cameron Payne or something like all on the court at the same time. It's like and maybe throwing Beasley in there too. It's like you have to know with like that lineup, you have to have a defender out there at all times. Like you have to kind of stagger the team where you have at least one guy out there on all times that can give you something on defense. And Griffin would routinely run out lineups where it's like you look at the 5 guys on the court and you're just like, is there one guy out here that can play defense? And a lot of times the answer was no. It's like, what kind of lineup are we running? And like, so just by far the weird stuff with defense, like not having a defensive identity of any sort, really. And I know several players kind of called that out. Like, what is our identity? What are we? Like, what is our defense? You know, like, what are we building towards? Like, there was just a lot of frustration these last few games, even though we've won. Like, there's been just a lot of moments where I've personally seen, like, I don't know if you caught this or not, but there was, I think it was in the first Pistons game of our most recent doubleheader against the Pistons, where it was like Chris and Brook, they were like screaming at each other for like several times during the game. I don't know if you caught it, but like there seemed to be a lot of frustration. Like there seemed to be some internal frustration on the court of maybe guys just being frustrated with the overall system, being frustrated with their role, not liking what they were being asked to do, essentially. So that was weird. Another small frustration, maybe not even small, maybe it was more major. Like a complaint with Griffin would be when he came over here from the Raptors, he was also, not only was he regarded as a defensive orientated coach, but he was regarded as this great, like, young player developmental coach. And it's like, have we really seen much of him, of his influence with that, with like MarJon Beauchamp or Andre Jackson Jr.? Like, you have 2 really talented young guys on your team on the Bucks, and he would just, like, he would play like, he just wouldn't really give him a fair opportunity. Like Jackson Jr. would play like 5 minutes in a game, do really well, and then we wouldn't see him for like 3 weeks. Then he would come in, play like 3 minutes, and then it's like, what are we doing? Like, what is like his role? Like, you gotta like leave him out there for a little bit, let him make a couple rookie mistakes. Like, that's fine. Like, you gotta, but in some ways, I think it was kind of like Griffin was kind of like coaching. He knew he was coaching for his job, so it's like he can't afford to have a rookie out there making a rookie mistake, because then it's like his job is further in jeopardy, kind of thing. So it's like he obviously leaned heavy on the vets, you know, because he wanted to keep winning and he wanted to keep being a head coach, I guess. So I suppose that makes sense, but just a lot of weird like moments with some of the young guys. Like, even like, I don't really know what we've been doing lately with like MarJon Beauchamp. It's like, I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but like he doesn't play in games really anymore. And I'm just like, I'm like wondering, like, are we trading him, or what's like going on? What's his role?
I think he's gonna get traded because he was playing at first. He was playing.
But now he hasn't been.
And see, you know, Ajax and him together playing too. But then it stopped, and I'm like, man, I think it's gonna be Pat and MarJon gone. I think that's what I think.
I mean, like, I get it. Like, I'm not saying like Andre Jackson should have just been given like 30 minutes or something off the bat or something, like, oh, like, here you go. Like, I understand that you have to like earn those minutes. I understand that we have a veteran like win now team, and you're not going to just, you know, bench a veteran player, a young guy. Like, I understand you have to earn those, but you have to earn those. It just was weird. Like,
I think there was one game where Ajax played maybe a couple minutes and didn't come back in. That was weird. I think sometimes Ajax would foul too much, so that could be a part of it. And I think Ajax did start a lot. So I think it's been up and down, but I think Ajax been playing a lot.
Yeah, I'm optimistic for him.
But like at first it wasn't. Yeah.
But like I'm just saying, like I think early on in the season, like there would just be too many games where I don't like when coaches do this, where they play a guy like 3 minutes and then like don't play you for a week and then you play like another 5 minutes. Like that's just super weird to me. Like no player is ever going to develop or do anything like if you do that. Like you need a consistent, like all I and like a lot of other people were pretty much asking for was just a consistent 10 to 15 minutes a game. Every game, just a consistent 10 to 15 minutes. That's it. Like that's fair. Like okay, if he fouls out in that amount of time, then well, we have a different problem, I guess. Like that's not good. But also sometimes the refs just honestly just pick on him just because he's a rookie. Like, oh, you're a rookie and you play for the Bucks. Oh, like you get a foul like as soon as you like get out of your car in the parking lot before the game. Like, and Andre Jackson Jr. pulls up in the players parking garage, and there's Tony Brothers to whistle him for his first foul. It's like I just got here, man. This can't be a foul. But yeah, just very shocking day. Yeah, I was truly astonished. But
Yeah.
I do trust Horst. Like these people know like the internal like workings of the team. Like they know like we as fans, us fans, we don't really know the characters of some of these people. We don't know what the practices have been like. We don't know, what type of person or coach Adrian Griffin is behind the scenes. I'm not insinuating that he's like a bad person or something. We don't know. We don't know how like the relationships of the team were working. Maybe him and Dame just did not see eye to eye. Obviously, you kind of brought that up, and I've heard some similar rumors about him not being a big fan of Griffin, and those two kind of button heads a little bit. And
yeah, something about offense, communication on offense, maybe the offensive system.
maybe how much of like a ball handler like Dame is allowed to be, and like maybe how many pick and rolls they run, kind of like.
Yeah, he needs the ball in his hands more, because he can make plays.
I wish, yeah, I mean, whoever we get as a coach just has to really run more pick and rolls with Giannis and Dame, and just really has to like post Giannis up more, I believe. And Griffin was doing a decent job of that, I'll say. Like I liked that he put Giannis in better positions to be successful. He had Giannis shooting some more mid-range shots. Giannis just kind of operating more in the post a lot this year. So that, I will say, that's a good thing about Griffin. Like there really are some good things that he did with the team. Offensively, I liked just our overall setup, and most of the time, like obviously we were great offensively every game, and it's like, there's obviously no problems there. Just the biggest thing was just the wacky defense. Just I had a lot of people online that I'd keep in touch with, and I'd read a lot of basketball blogs and basketball forums, and Real GM being one of them. And a lot of people on Real GM were basically saying that Griffin consistently tried to put a square peg through a round hole. Like you're trying to force something that isn't there.
Yeah.
Like rather than adapting your scheme to fit the personnel of the team, he's trying to adapt personnel to fit his desired scheme, and that's just not going to happen. You can't ask veteran players who have been in the NBA a long time to change who they are. You're asking a leopard to change its spots. You have to work with what the leopard is. You have to work with where the spots are. Like Brook Lopez isn't going to all of a sudden in year whatever it is, what is it, year 16, year 17 for him or something? Like he's not all of a sudden going to like be able to be a different type of defender or like guards on the perimeter or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not like what are you doing? Like, you can't. And that's a downfall of many inexperienced coaches, is they think that they can like adapt players to fit what they are desiring scheme wise, but 99.9% of the time that's not possible. You have to adapt your ideas and your schemes and your philosophies, your defensive philosophies and your schemes. You have to adjust and change those to fit the players on your roster, and that's what it is. And I believe that Horst gave Griffin the time to show that he was going to do that, to show that he could do that. And simply just the sand in the hourglass ran out, and time ran out, and the clock struck midnight, and Griffin turned into a pumpkin, and that was the end of the fairy tale.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
We're talking about cartoons now.
Yeah, we got fairy tales here.
I think Griffin, he just he didn't have the defenders to really get his system out there. Like you said, he had a personnel, and you're supposed to change what you're doing to fit the personnel, and he wasn't really doing that. To his defense, I think Bud has had better defensive teams. Like he's had George Hill, Javon Carter, Drew Holiday, PJ Tucker, Wesley Matthews. And I think this team is more offensively oriented. I can't really think of a lot of things that would make me say, hey, that's a great coach. So I understand why they fired him. I'm just surprised that they fired him during the season, but the fact that they fired him, I'm not shocked, because he was like meh. It's like when you eat some food and it's like you don't hate it, but you don't like it. Like,
Yeah.
what's good about it? It's all right. It's edible, but nothing good about it. I did like, huh?
It's efficient enough to keep you alive, but you don't really enjoy eating it.
Right. I did like what you said, about the pros that Griffin had. I like that he used his challenges, unlike Bud, who just
That's another one. That's
kept
another
them.
one. I forgot to mention
Yeah,
that as a pro. Thank you. That's another one.
he kept them in his pocket and took them home. He
Bud
called
still,
good timeouts.
Bud still thinks he can use those timeouts. Actually, wherever Bud is sitting right now, he's sitting there like laughing and saying, "You know what, Kyle? Like, the joke's on you, because right now in my pocket, I have 25 unused challenges right now, and whenever a team decides to hire me again as a head coach, whether it's in the year 2028 or the year 2062, then when I come back coaching, I'm still going to have these challenges to use." And I'm like, "No, Bud, like, sorry, that's not how it works."
Yeah.
I
So
will also say, in some small fairness, maybe to Griffin, is the Jay Crowder injury for the Bucks early on in the season did impact our ability to have a perimeter defender out on the court. It's possible that with Crowder not getting hurt, perhaps our defense does improve and
yeah,
doesn't as bad as it was. But then again, I also do kind of think that, like, I look back to the 9 or 10 games that Jay Crowder did play before his injury, and I don't know if we were the greatest defensively there yet either, but
yeah,
perhaps that was just the early growing pains of being in the new scheme or learning those things, and it's maybe possible that it could have improved or could have gotten better, but we'll never know the answer to that. So it's just another what if scenario. It's like if Giannis never gets hurt last year against the Heat and he never falls on his back, it's a what if. Like, would we have still lost that series? Would we have maybe won? Like, we don't know. We don't know. It's just a what if.
yeah.
I'd like to believe that it would have at least been a whole lot more competitive than it was.
That's true.
which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it would have been. And to me, it was obvious that even when Giannis did play later in the season, later in the series last year against the Heat, he was maybe 75%, 80% at best. Like when he played, he was not 100%. There were several moments of him during game 4, I believe, and even some moments in game 5 where he was like clutching at his back and like holding his back throughout the game. And there's just no way I believe that he was close to 100%. So I'm proud of him for obviously like being an old school player and gutting that out and like going out there, because that's the type of person and player that he is. Like if he feels he can give 75% of himself, he's going to be out there, like, working his tail off to do what he does. So I always appreciate that about him. So I had to throw in a shout out there, of course, to our guy Giannis. So
his mentality is just one of one.
The other thing I will mention here quickly with you is like 2 concerns. Well, I mean, there's multiple concerns, but one concern that I do have, and I'll get into this, is just, I don't know, like just how all of this, like the optics of all of this look for Giannis, and like, how does Giannis feel about this kind of like, is he like on board with this? Is he confused? Is he concerned? Is he worried about how we manage or how we operate? Maybe he's in complete agreement and I don't know. Like, is he like, oh, like, yeah, this is a good idea, or like, I'm glad we fired him, or is it more like
he's on board? Because I think so. There's a report saying that he didn't want to be coached by Nick Nurse, and so that's why he was lobbying for Adrian Griffin. So he wanted Griffin, and I think he's one of the people that lost faith in Griffin. And I think if Giannis wanted Griffin to still be here, he would still be here, because obviously, they decided to not go with Nurse, and Nurse dropped out because Giannis didn't want Nurse. He wanted Griffin. So Giannis does have some power and some say. And like I said, I think Giannis is on board with this. I think Dame is on board with this, because I'm pretty sure the front office went to the players to get their opinion. And I heard some of the, front office people was going to the practices, seeing how things were. I bet even Bobby is on board. I think, remember that one time he was like, we got to coach better and blah, blah, blah.
I might have missed that from Bobby.
Was it after a Raptors game? We might have.
Might have been.
Sure. Yeah. And he was like, Griffin, you got to be better at the end of the game.
I know what you're talking about. No, it was after the in-season tournament loss to the Pacers in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. Right.
Remember? Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I certainly hope you're right, Ashley. I hope you're right, because if it's any different than what you described, that's not really good and not ideal, kind of a problem. So I certainly hope you're right, and that, I hope Giannis didn't wake up and just was blindsided by this news and angry or something. Like, I do kind of worry about that, and you don't want to lose the trust of your superstar, of course.
Yeah.
My other worry and concern has to do with just the overall optics of everything and how it looks, because if you're a new coach coming to the Bucks now, you got to be thinking like, oh damn, like they might fire me like really soon, if like, because we've now fired 2 coaches within a 6-month, 7-month time period or whatever it is. So it's like, man, if I go to Milwaukee, expectations are going to be so high on me that if I don't deliver right away, they're gonna fire me again. And it's like, that you want to be careful with that, because I don't know, like if you're a new coaching candidate and let's say you're Doc Rivers, since there's reports out there that he's the guy that we're strongly considering to be our next coach here in Milwaukee, which I'm okay with. That's great and all, everything. I'd be okay with bringing him on board, absolutely. But if you're him, you're almost thinking like, oh boy, like like you're almost like scared to come here in a sense. Like it's like they, there's so much pressure. It's like, like I do think that's a little bit, maybe it's not a huge deal. Maybe it's not like the biggest thing, but there's definitely a little bit of that. Like I would say, like it's a little bit of a factor.
To me, I don't think coaches would,
You don't think they'd be worried too much about that?
No, I feel like it comes with the job, like the pressure of all. Because I think Doc Rivers rather would coach than, be on ESPN talking during games.
I suppose
I think
I suppose it also depends a little bit on like the specifics of everything that we as fans don't know. Like if they met with another coaching candidate and they said, well, we fired Griffin because he did this like behind the scenes or something. Like us fans, like we don't know like maybe what was said or like how things went down or what happened behind the scenes. So like if you talked with a new coaching candidate and you say, well, this is the reason why we fired him. Like he crossed a line, or, he had repeated like altercations with players, or, I don't know. That's just me speculating on what happened behind the scenes or something. But like maybe if they say the specifics of like why Griffin was fired, like, oh, he was maybe if they, they could speak about him positively, they could say, well, we did like him, but he just was not a good fit for us because we're very much so win now or something. And then like, you get what I'm saying? Like that could ease the worries of like a new potential coach. They could just say, oh, like now I understand, like, maybe how that went down with Griffin, where they don't have to worry about it as much, or they can be less worried about it or something. Maybe I'm a little too worried about that, but it's a small concern I have. Like, and with that concern, I definitely will say, make no mistakes about it. I firmly believe, like, absolutely, 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 for sure, whoever we hire to be our next coach, we can't like keep doing this. Like, we can't keep firing coaches. We can't fire Bud and then a few months later fire Griffin, and then a few months later like fire this next guy. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like this, we can't keep doing that. Like you can't fire 5 coaches in a year or something. Like whoever we hire this next time around has to be that ideal person that you envision as an organization being with Giannis for the next 5 to 10 years. Like you get what I'm saying? Like that's what you have to do here. And I realize that that's maybe a difficult thing to ask, especially when it's like a mid-season addition. And maybe Doc Rivers can be that person. Maybe he can be that guy. That would be great if he could be. But you understand what I'm saying, like, right? Like,
yeah, like this coach, it has to be the last coach, especially because you have 3 coaching contracts on the books. You're paying Bud, you're paying Griffin, and now you're going to pay this coach.
I mean, that's another thing. You want to just keep paying coaches for all these years or something? Like that's crazy too.
Yeah. Like, I think that's probably why they're not announcing it right now. I think it's going to be Doc, because they already announced it, but then they're like, no, it's not true. So it's like they probably want to make sure, they probably don't want to fire and hire in the same day, but they also want to make sure and take their time with it. But yeah, I don't think any coaches, I think all coaches are going to say is, what can I do better that Griffin didn't? But I think any coach is going to want to coach Giannis and Dame because firing is just a part of the job. Like, it's just part of the pressure. I think, like you said, Griffin would have been better on a rebuilding team. And I think we had Drew, which would have been perfect for his defensive system or whatever. But when we traded Drew for Dame, it increased more pressure. And if you notice, we don't have the defenders on the bench. So I think he was dealt a bad hand, but at the same time, I think firing in the middle of the season is bad, but also you have a small sample size of what it was like to be coached by Griffin, and it wasn't impressive. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't great. So they're just cutting ties with it. They're like, okay, we made a mistake. We hired a rookie coach. Now we're washing our hands with it, and it's not ideal to do it in the middle of the season because now you got to get used to a new coach, new system, and then we're probably going to trade some players at the deadline. So it's going to be a lot of chaos for sure. But I think they're just righting the wrong that they did this summer. He wasn't supposed to get hired in this situation. A championship contender, rookie coach, it just wasn't supposed to happen.
I agree. That's exactly how I felt when I first saw the news that he was hired in the first place over the summer. I just was shocked and I couldn't believe it. And the fit never made sense. So I envisioned this. I thought this was going to happen, to be honest with you, in like the third week of the season, to be honest with you. Like I envisioned him being fired after like 15 games and like Terry Stotts taking over as head coach, honestly. Like
a lot of fans were freaking out.
This whole thing happened, and I will say I do like that you included in fairness to Griffin the major trade shakeup of moving Drew and Grayson Allen. Also him too. Don't forget about him moving it. That's starters. So we moved two starters, Grayson Allen. We moved two starters, Grayson Allen and Drew Holiday. We moved them 1 week before the training camp started to bring in Lillard. And with Drew, Griffin's defensive scheme probably does make a little bit more sense, or probably is better. But like without Drew and you having like Bobby Portis like aggressively going for steals on the perimeter, that was crazy. Like Bobby Portis is not known as a defender. He should not be going for steals on the perimeter. I think you know what I'm talking about. Like that was happening. Like guys were playing Bobby Portis.
Forced turnovers, basically.
Like Bobby Portis, but like we weren't even good at that. So like Griffin's scheme was like, oh, we gotta force turnovers. That's his defensive MO. But like I'm pretty sure the Bucks ranked almost last in the NBA in like forced turnovers. So pretty much the one thing that the one supposed benefit to your scheme that you designed here was to force turnovers, right? But we weren't even doing that. We were towards the bottom and forcing turnovers. So it's like it wasn't even working. You had Bobby and like our guys, Brooke and other bigs that should be closer to the rim. They're out on the perimeter going for steals, and like it's just a recipe for a disaster. When I saw that happen, I was like, that's never going to work. But yes, I like that you brought up the fairness perspective of Griffin having to adjust immediately right before the season out of the blue, out of nowhere, with a mega superstar coming in like Dame. That would be hard for a veteran coach to be able to adjust to right before the season started. But now you're asking a rookie head coach to somehow be able to adjust to that. That was really tough. That was really tough and not really fair to him. Like that's hard. Like that would have been difficult for a veteran coach to have been dealt that hand. So that was a tough adjustment for him. So I like that you brought that up. Losing Drew right before the season for Dame. It's just a major game changer, major chemistry changer, major like personnel change. They're different kind of players. Drew is a perimeter defender. Dame is, let's be honest, not a defender. So I mean,
that's not defensively an upgrade to Drew, offensively, not defensively. Yeah.
we looked to upgrade our shooting around Giannis. We looked to upgrade our playmaking. We looked to upgrade our offense. We did all that with adding, we did all that with adding Dame, but we did lose perimeter defense. So that was a tough change for Griffin for the season.
Yeah, I agree. There's rumblings about Doc Rivers. Some fans don't want him because of the 3-1 leads. Some fans are like, I don't want Doc Rivers. He's a horrible coach. He didn't get, 76ers anywhere. 3-1 blown leads, blah, blah, blah. But I do know that he'll probably run more pick and rolls with Dame and Giannis and try to hide Dame on defense. Maybe some defenders will help. And I don't think we will ever blow a 3-1 lead with Giannis. Like you said, he doesn't have, that mentality to lose. Like, you're 3-1, so close. All you got to do is win one more and not allow them to win 2 and 3 and 4, 3 in a row. That's not Giannis's mentality. He got that Mamba mentality. He's going to crush it. 50-point game, closeout. It's done. And we have Dame time, clutchness. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you, Ashley. I mean, there's like I said earlier when we were talking, of course, non-podcast here, we were exchanging messages earlier when this news first broke, and you brought up the 3-1 series leads that Rivers has blown in the playoffs before, and I said, well, there's two ways to look at that. You can look at it as negative, blowing the lead, which blowing a 3-1 lead is bad. Make no mistake about it. I do believe, of course, that's bad, of course. But the other way of looking at it is it's impressive to have a 3-1 lead against any team in a playoff series. So when you're that close, I think when you have a 3-1 lead in a series in the playoffs where you're playing competitive, damn good teams, let's be real, like that's what it is. I think at that point, when you have the 3-1 lead, like you said, it comes down to the mentality of the players at that point. Who wants it? Do you want to seal the deal? Are you the type of superstar? Are you the type of player you have a 3-1 lead? We're ending this. And it's a mentality thing. Doc Rivers hasn't had the greatest mentality leaders with some of his players. Here's looking at you, James Harden. Here's looking at you, Joel Embiid. I mean, a lot of, some of those Clippers teams with Blake Griffin, who was kind of injury prone, and Chris Paul. Well, that's the other thing too. In some of those 3-1 leads, I'd have to go back and look at the history, but didn't Chris Paul get hurt in one of those series maybe? So I mean, or let's just say maybe he didn't get hurt, but maybe he was hurt earlier in the series or something, or he just wasn't 100%. There's always maybe some other factors kind of that go into those things. I believe that if you blow a 3-1 series lead, that's not just on the coach. That just means a lot went wrong. That means mentality slipped. Players just made very critical mistakes. Because if you want to blame the coach for blowing a 3-1 lead, then the coach has to get credit for having a 3-1 lead, right? It goes both ways. So the coach helped to get them a 3-1 lead. So I think at that point, it just becomes about the players and the mentality. And do you want to seal the deal or not? And sometimes players just don't have that extra drive or don't have that extra killer instinct to squash a team, and they keep a team hanging around and they keep a team in it. And if you keep a team in it long enough, you just might get burned. You just might get burned by the fire. And that's what it comes down to. So I don't think Doc has ever worked with players with the mentality of Dame and Giannis. So And correct me if I'm wrong too, but like this would be the first time that Doc Rivers would be coming to a team whose already established core already won a championship without him. All of the other times when Doc came to a team, they hadn't won a championship before him. So this would be a different, more unique situation where Doc would be coming in to coach a team whose core, Giannis, Chris, Brooke, they've already won a ring without him. So like that speaks to the mentality and the leadership of the players. Like he's not coming into a team like he was with the Sixers, who they'd never even made a conference finals before, nevertheless been playing in the finals for an NBA championship. So those are different situations and scenarios. So
that's true.
Doc Rivers isn't a perfect coach, sure. Like in reality, nobody is. Like we could sit here and talk for forever about you can say Phil Jackson, you can say like some of the Greg Popovich, some of those greatest coaches, but none of those coaches are walking through the door to coach the Bucks. Like they're not around right now. And
Greg Pop.
And it's just we have to be realistic, right? And so the Bucks, we're not going to hire a rookie head coach again, right? Like we learned our mistake. We know our lesson with that. The lesson was learned. We're not doing that again. So we know we're not hiring a rookie coach this time around. We're not hiring a first-year coach. So that means we have to look for somebody with experience who's won a championship, that's a highly respected coach, and who checks all those boxes. It would be Doc Rivers. Is there anybody else currently out there that would even like fit that mold? Like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, it would just be rookie coaches. So to me, like, I don't like the options are very limited. And that comes with the territory. You're firing a coach mid-season. What do you expect? Like, there's not going to be options to choose from, This isn't the off season. If you make the change in the off season, then there's usually like a surplus of coaches to choose from.
Right.
It comes down to, I like what you said about righting the wrong. This is just about fixing a mistake that was made this past summer. We could have, Frank Vogel was out there, Nick Nurse was out there, heck, Terry Stotts was out there, Kenny Atkinson was out there. We could have made anybody a coach who had experience, and we chose to go with a first-year coach. Now that was incredibly risky, and we now see like what the great risk involved in that decision was. We now see what the consequence of that was. So the lesson was learned. So I can't think of anybody else that would be out there that would make sense for this team right now, aside from Doc Rivers, due to just the limited options that the Bucks are going to have.
Yeah.
I absolutely don't want Stan Van Gundy. That guy hates the Bucks. I want nothing to do with him. I can't let us end this podcast without me calling that guy out. Every single game on TNT, that guy just has it out for the Bucks, has it out for Giannis, is super critical of everything involving the Bucks. He's a straight up Bucks hater. Don't bring that guy anywhere near Milwaukee.
Yeah, I wouldn't want him either.
Dan, you were fired by the Pistons, man. The Pistons fired you. That says it all.
Oh, wow. So, that was a crazy time, yeah.
Although I'll give some fairness to Stan. I won't be all mean to him. He did beat LeBron James when he was coach of the Orlando Magic when he had Dwight Howard. That was an impressive series win. And Stan Van Gundy took the Magic to the finals, which was very impressive that year. So, okay, good job, Stan. Props for that. But I don't want you coaching the Bucks. Mostly just because you're so negative. Maybe if you weren't so negative on TV, I wouldn't be saying this. But a big no to Stan Van Gundy. Sorry, buddy. You're going to be stuck with TV. And a big heck no to Reggie Miller. Get that guy far away from us, too. I know he would never leave to coach, but heck no to him too.
Yeah.
I don't know. don't know if you can think of anybody else. I know the Bucks interviewed Kenny Atkinson also this past summer, but like I know he's currently an assistant coach with the Warriors. Can we like go like that's kind of a weird situation? Are we really gonna go and like bribe another coach to leave like his current situation to come here during the middle of the season? I don't know. That's kind of odd.
Our situation is better than the Warrior situation. So
True.
who knows? I think you have to get like permission to like interview him. I'm pretty sure the Warriors would be like okay with an interview, but
yeah, I would imagine so.
I think Doc Rivers is their guy. The report already came out. I think the Bucks are just delaying the report from coming out.
Yeah.
I think it's Doc Rivers. He won a championship with Boston. He played for Marquette.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and maybe the players will respect his resume more because he won a championship and he's been around forever. Because I guess if Griffin is coaching you and you don't really agree with him, you're probably like, what does he know? He's a rookie. They're probably looking at him like, dude. And then people were like, Giannis is drawing out plays in the Pistons game. That's how you know we're in trouble. That's what people were saying. Because didn't you see the graphic?
I don't know what was up with that. I did see him doing that. I don't know if that's what he was doing, but it did look really weird. Like
people were like, oh, Giannis is drawing plays. That says it all. Oh crap. The phone dropped. Like that says it all. But that was funny.
What you brought up about like, yeah, the respect thing is big. Like I don't think our players respected a first year head coach, and they will most likely respect a guy who has a long tenured experience history with being a head coach and who has won a championship, like you said. And I also agree. I just think the Bucks don't want to have this all come out during the same day. Like, oh, we fired Griffin and we hired his replacement right away, because then that might look bad, or it might appear from the outside that means like, oh, that means we were talking to Doc Rivers for, several weeks in advance or something, which to be honest, I mean, we probably were, to be honest, but you don't want that to be, revealed and everything. I would agree with your prediction. That's probably what I would predict at this point also. That's what I think will happen.
Yeah. And yeah, their 30-13 was trending on Twitter because I think fans from the outside didn't understand. Oh, you're second in the East. You're 30-13. Why is this coach being fired? I don't think people, unless you watch the games and follow the Bucks, I don't think like the ups and downs the team has had. I think we won games mostly because of Giannis and Dame's heroics, and their talent. Huh?
We won on a lot of pure talent offensively. That's how we've been winning.
Yeah. But yeah, to wrap it up, Griffin, he just wasn't the right coach, wrong hire. Now they're trying to make up for it, and hopefully we can right these wrongs, get the good veteran championship coach that we need, because it's championship or bust. When you have Dame and Giannis, and Giannis is in his prime, Dame really wants a ring. You don't really have time to learn the way Griffin needed to learn, unfortunately. Hopefully he can get another shot, because there was
with that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it with the coaching is, I can't remember who it was, but was it maybe when I can't quite remember or put my finger on what it was, but maybe it was when we hired Jason Kidd or something. It was like, oh, like we were talking to him for weeks or something. Do you remember that? Like where it came out like, oh, they were talking to him like way too early or something. So it like looked kind of weird. Like when we fired Larry Drew, and then like immediately we had Kidd like all lined up or something, and like some question.
Yeah.
And like I think that's maybe what's going on a little bit. Like they call it they call it doing due diligence, or like, oh, like we really like we weren't just trying to, you know, outright replace him right away. We wanted to do a thorough search kind of thing. But all in all, they probably do have their own guy that they're zeroing in on, and most likely you and I are of the belief that it will be Doc Rivers. So that's what I think we're both going to predict here.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, it's the Prunty prophecy, and Prunty is going to lead us to a championship, baby. Joe Prunty.
Good luck versus Cleveland. This is your test. If you lose, you lose the job. If you win, you can coach the rest of the season. No, season. Just kidding.
Which Tristan Thompson is suspended for that game, by the way, for taking a banned drug substance. Yeah. What did you say, Ashley? If you have to take drugs to still be relevant, it's time to retire.
If you gotta take drugs, you gotta retire.
You gotta retire. You hear that, Tristan Thompson? Your time is up, man.
Oh, I can't keep up with these young guys. Let me shoot this.
Like the sand in the hourglass runs out of time for Griffin. Every player's sand in their hourglass runs out too.
It's a harsh business, a harsh world.
Harsh realities. I truly would have never, you know, in some ways though, it's like, it's, you know, I look back and I think about it, it's like we were a fan of, you and I have both been Bucks fans for so long, and we've been fans of some terrible teams, truly terrible teams with no chance of being relevant or doing anything. And if you would have told me back then, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that we would be firing a head coach with a 30-13 record midway through a season, I would have never believed that. I would have thought you were crazy. I would have never believed that. But a large part of that is just kudos to us and kudos to the Bucks as an organization. We have reached a professional standard of excellence, and winning a championship will do that. We have a standard and an expectation of greatness now, and anything that falls remotely short of that, we're going to look to improve or upgrade. And yeah, like the business seems cutthroat, and it is. It's a results league, and John Horst is like a shark right now, and the shark smelt water, or excuse me, the shark smelt blood. And you know, that was Adrian Griffin's blood in the ocean, and you know, his body floated to the top.
Oh my goodness.
After Horst went on his shark hunt.
Those graphics are wild. Wow.
Horst went out on a shark hunt, and he's trying to catch a new coach, and Griffin, you're out with the old and in with the new, basically. And hopefully John Horst isn't done fishing out on the water, and he's casting his net and wide around the league, and now he's looking for additions to help us defensively now as we go into the second half of the season, and you know, work towards our way to the playoffs. And you know, Horst is out there, and I have faith in him.
Horst can do miracles, and this is the second time he done fired a coach in the middle of the season. That means he's very bold, and I feel like he's going to make some good trades for us to get better defensively. And it's a wake-up call from the players, too. Like, dang, this dude's not playing around. We got to get ready. We got to get to business. I got to play better.
You have to have a level of boldness, and you have to have a willingness to take risks as a GM, and I believe those things help win championships if you have those characteristics. Great GMs have those characteristics. GMs that win championships show that.
Yeah.
A big example is like the Raptors when they traded for Kawhi Leonard. Like 2019, that was a big risk.
Yeah, and it paid off.
But it paid off. That's the type of risks you have to make. You have to, or us when we traded for Drew. Before the season started a few years back, we traded Eric Bledsoe, and we brought in Drew, and that was a risk, kind of. Like, it was an unknown. We brought in a new point guard. This year, we took another risk, brought in Damian Lillard. In 2021, when we took our risks, it ended up in a championship at the end of the season. So I hope this year can be something close, at least. I won't say personally that we don't. I know you said it's championship or bust, and it is to a degree, but I just want to see us compete the right way, contend, and be close. I don't need to see us necessarily win the championship, but we need to be close. We need to contend, and we need to play the right way. If we do that and we lose, I can accept it, and I can be okay with how the season ended. But if we don't, then we have to make changes, and we have to keep working to improve, and we have to make sure that we have the standard that epitomizes and shows that we demand a level of competitive greatness, and
right.
We need to be close. That's all I ask. That we play the right way, that we keep it close, that we're right there in the end. If we're right there in the end and we're competing, I can handle losing that way. The way we lost last season, losing to an ace seed, losing in 5 games, that was completely unacceptable. We had big leads in the fourth quarter that we let slip away. We choked games away. That was unacceptable. Now that was not a way to end a season. That was not a way to have any pride, and changes were rightfully made after that. So that's really just what the outlook is here in Milwaukee right now. You and I laid it out for the people.
Yeah, it's all about getting, these championship trophies, Larry O'Brien's, the rings. I really hope that we get to the NBA Finals so we can at least taste the finals again.
I agree.
Can get there for the first time. And I just feel like if we can get there, everyone's healthy, Giannis is not gonna want to leave the finals without a ring,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like just getting there is gonna be,
We have to show Giannis, just, it's always about showing your star how serious you are, and we have to show him how serious we are about competing for a championship. And that's also why I mentioned, like, this next coaching hire has to be, we have to hit a home run. We have to have stability. You have to have a stableness. And, like, if you continue to fire coaches left and right over and over and over again, there's no chance for stability to form. There's no chance for, like, consistency. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just starting over at square one over and over again. And you can't keep doing that, because if you walk 10 feet and then you turn around and you start from the same spot and you walk another 10 feet and you turn around and you keep going back, you're never going to move forward. You're never going anywhere. You're just always going back to the same starting square. So we have to get this next hire right, and we can't keep firing coaches. That's my main takeaway from this is Milwaukee Bucks, like, please get this right. Please get this right for us fans. Like, for us as an organization, this is really serious. Like, we can't keep taking these steps backwards. We can't keep firing people. It's not going to look good. And Giannis eventually is going to get tired of that. And any player would. If you just keep seeing, like, oh, my organization, like, fired another coach. Oh, okay. Like, it shows that they're not getting it. They're not on the same page. They're not hiring the right people. So if you show a level of uncertainty or instableness, you're going to lose players. You might lose a franchise player doing that. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful. We have to take it seriously, and we have to restore the stable culture that we did have under Bud. And there were things I didn't like maybe about Bud, of course, but, like, one thing you can't argue is that he had a stable culture, and he had a stable system, an elite system, and he had a culture of winning and a culture of defined roles. And right now, that's what we're looking to find again. So that's where we need to move as Bucks fans. That's where we need to move as a team. That's where the Milwaukee Bucks need to be in the next coming months. We need to be taking steps into competitive stability is my takeaway. That's how I feel right now. I know you feel the same.
Kyle, preaching, and spitting those facts,
I had to put on my preacher's hat there for a moment there.
Oh, man. Thank you, Kyle.
Side note, we can make a quick mention of, we touched very briefly on the trade deadline and hoping that the Bucks can bring in some reinforcements defensively, especially mostly we're looking for perimeter help defensively. The Heat today picked up Terry Rozier for Kyle Lowry. That was a big addition for the Heat. Nice move, nicely done. Miami strikes again. What can you do but pound your head into the door as a Bucks fan? These Heat, they always make these moves, and Charlotte they just gave Rozier away. They just gave him away, and
you're not gonna get better if you keep doing that.
You're a bad team, and you just give away. You're a bad team, and you just give away your better players to help another contender. I hate that, and there's nothing more annoying. And every fan of every other contending team would agree. Stop doing that. If you're going to give up a good player, at least ask for a good player in return. My goodness, how difficult is it? One thing quickly before we end this podcast, I do want to ask you, who is your prediction for the Bucks to acquire at the trade deadline? Do you think we will make a move? And if so, shoot your shot. Who is your prediction of who the Milwaukee Bucks acquire for ideally some perimeter defensive help?
I think we're going to get 2 players.
Okay.
There's 3 in mind. There's 3 that I think.
This is like a birthday gift and a future Christmas gift all in one. You're giving me 2 gifts. Wow.
We're going to get all 3, but these are the 3 that I think we're going to get. PJ Tucker, because he's just sitting there with the Clippers. You know, the former Buck, championship. Also, Alex Caruso has been, his name has been in there. Also, Dorian Smith, I think I would like him the most. 6'7", he can shoot the 3. I want big guards, or wings. Alex Caruso and PJ Tucker, they're like 6'5", which is okay. But I kind of want like somebody 6'7", maybe.
Yeah, I feel that. Any of those guys would be great to add. My worry with Caruso is how much we would have to give up, like what the payment rate or the price of getting a player like him would be.
I want to give up Bobby.
Concern.
Yeah.
So
don't give up Bobby.
So that's your prediction? We end up with all 3 of those players, or you're just
no, just 1 or 2.
Oh, so you're predicting?
That's too much.
You're predicting it will be one of those 3.
Yes.
Okay. There's another name out there, Matisse Thybulle, that's been connected in some trade rumors. I know he's out there. I know other fans have mentioned him as a potential target. He shoots the 3 pretty well. He can be a perimeter defender. He could add a lot of help to the Bucks. Oh man, who do I predict?
Herb Jones from the Pelicans. I like him.
I feel like that one's kind of a pipe dream. That one might not be real.
It's a dream. That's not one of my 3, but okay. That would be awesome if we could.
It's okay to dream, Ashley. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the Bucks will just wake up tomorrow and Alex Caruso will just be there for free, I guess, and we won't have to give up anything. You said I could dream. You said I could dream, right? My prediction will be, there's another guy on the Nets too that has kind of been talked about in trade rumors, Royce O'Neal. He's kind of a defender a bit. He shoots the three well. Maybe he's not as good of a defender as Finney Smith or Thibault. I'm not too sure on that, but
Yeah, I don't think
with either Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney Smith, or Matisse Thybulle.
so. Okay. Those are all great options. The trade deadline is here. I mean, coming around the corner.
Yep.
You know.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me so much, Ashley. Go Bucks. Go Bucks like always.